converse with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And but before all that, I was watching a lot of debates, and there was this one debate that got me drawn into this denomination called Biblical Unitarianism. And it was Anthony Buzzard versus James White. It was a debate on the Trinity. And at that point, I was like, okay, there is another denomination out there. I never actually went to their service, but I did. I actually called Anthony Buzzard on the phone. It was a pretty good conversation. He is very down to earth. And I tried to call James White, but that didn't work out. But yeah, I consider myself biblical Unitarian for maybe 6 months or so.
Yeah, and that was like a source of contention. Remember, I couldn't stand Anthony Buzzard because he was making him not believe in the Trinity. And when I got into born again Christianity, I was like fully believing in the Trinity, and like people were showing me all these things that made me believe that it was real. And I was like, no, because we have to be the same. You can't be a Unitarian Universalist, and I'm a born again Christian. It was always the thought of we have to be, whatever it is, it has to be right. Because I don't want either one of us to die. And we have children now, so you're always thinking about, their souls. You want to save their souls, even if you can't save your own, you want to save theirs. And so it was always just, I want to be right. You have to get it right. Because I got it so wrong for 29 years. Whatever we do, I want to get it right. But yeah.
And then the thing that made me question the Bible was an ex-Jehovah's Witness. And he basically posed the question, did you even consider Jesus being a real person? And at that point, I just took a deep dive into that whole thing, looking at as much history as I possibly could. And yeah, I was like, oh, this actually is inconclusive on this guy.
Yeah, and I didn't like that. I was like, no, Jesus is real. Jesus is real.
That was hard because she said she did crying. Yeah, I had many nights crying because it's like, oh, this has to be. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like he may or may not have existed. And that's just the truth that no one wants to come to terms with, most Christians. But that's the truth. And at that point, this none of this is true.
Yeah. He would always like start going into things before me, and I'm always catching up. But he doesn't always tell me, but then I'm not always ready to hear it. I'm not ready to hear it. Yeah.
It's interesting the thing you just said about Jesus, whether was he real or not. They call it Jesus mythicism. And that's a really big question that I've got some different friends and other YouTubers where they almost get angry about it on both sides. Like they really are like people like, of course there was a historical Jesus. He was just made into a legend, but it was a man. And other people like, there's a lot of reasons to think he may not have existed at all. I tend to lean towards he probably did not exist, but I understand why people still fight back or think different things about it. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's also a question that once you've escaped, like if you're a Christian, it's a big deal. He has to have existed. But once you've escaped from it all, it's like a dead man from 2,000 years ago. I'm not going to like lose a friendship over it. It's just like, it doesn't really matter to me. It's not worth fighting over. But I know people that are they're ready to start swinging fists over it. And it's like, it's not worth it. This stuff needs to die in terms of both its power over us, but also just like the whole idea of the dogmatism that we all come with, such a fundamentalism of like it's my way or else you're a bad guy. And it's like, no, we can agree to disagree and then go have a beer together, and it's all good. We're still friends. And I think that's so important if we can keep those dynamics going. But once you got to the point there where you're like really, 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 really out, and you're just there's no more questions left. You're pretty much just like, this is all garbage, all versions of it. Did you feel elated? Did you feel sad? Like what? And I know I'm not mean about the shunning that was going on, but just between you and this God character, you in the sense that I know God or Jesus is up there. I know there's a plan for my life. There's a creator. To think that person might not be there looking out for you, planning something for your life and for the hereafter. Did that hurt you? Were you sad, happy, sad? How did that work out?
Well, it was hard at first. Believing the witnesses was the hardest part. That first year of trying to understand that you're lied to and stuff, that was the hardest part. A year of crying straight. But then after that, it was just kind of like it was this up and down roller coaster of us this is true. No, it's not. No, this thing is true. No, it's not. Just jumping from thing to thing to thing, trying to find something tangible to hold on to. And the biggest, when we're lost, we just start researching again. And then we always learn something new and a new trail. And so at the end of the day, after studying everything we can think of, and we're still studying, still searching, right, for truth, is we got into the Sumerians. We only heard about the Sumerians like briefly,
Yeah, very
touched on
vaguely. Yeah.
in the witnesses in the Bible, but we got really into that in the Sumerian tablets, and then finding out that stories in the Bible come from the Sumerian tablets. And so someone's copying someone's homework and it wasn't the Sumerians, right? And so what the heck? And so the history goes back way further than what we even realize as humans today. You don't know what you don't know. What we do know is that I'm here right now. And so I want to enjoy this life in this moment that I have right now and use it to the fullest. I do believe that there is more than what we see. I grew up in a haunted house, so I know there's more than what we see.
Atheists don't kill us.
Things I cannot explain. The house was haunted. And I don't know I know the brain and the mind is very powerful. So I don't know if it's the volatile emotions of the house that can make things happen and make things move. So I know we're very powerful. Our energetic fields, our brains are very powerful. We can do things that we don't even know that we can do. But I believe there's more than this. I do not believe that there's a God that's watching me, making sure I do A, B, and C.
Right.
And if there is, he's not a very good guy because he's letting all these bad things happen on the earth.
Yeah.
So either way, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, initially, yeah, it's always hard leaving something that you believed in and you dedicated your life to. It's very hard. I mean, it took a long time. Even just a few years ago, you still have those questions like, could it be true? Not necessarily the Jehovah's Witnesses, but the Bible in of itself. You have those doubts. But yeah, it's rough. It's definitely.
Yeah, I don't have any doubts anymore.
No, not now. But
None, but yeah, in the past, like you have like something will happen or someone will say something and think, oh, maybe I should go to church or maybe this, or am I doing the right things for the kids? What are we even supposed to tell the kids? You know what I mean? How do I put them on any type of a right path? But yeah, we teach them, we call it word magic, is what we've always told them, is that your words are powerful. So whatever you say is what it's going to be. So be careful what you say. You can have, do, and be whatever you want. So dream the biggest dream you can dream for yourself. You're only limited by your imagination. And if you decide that one day that you want to be born again Christian, that's fine. I don't mind. That's your choice. I had to, make my own path, and then I'm going to give you everything I know. No, you got to do your own thing, but I will always love you and support you. But I'd say that was one of the hardest parts, is trying to figure out what do we tell our kids when we don't even know.
It is. It's an amazing journey. I've gone through it myself. When you look at how far you've come through all these stages and all these issues that you've thought through, one of the questions that I think comes to a lot of people's minds is just the trauma from everything from the shunning, but also just the actual doctrines, the theology of this. There's a lot of, you mentioned before, for example, that men are the ones that are leading the church and women are not. So you're talking about patriarchy and misogyny, probably some purity culture mixed in there, all kinds of religious trauma. The trauma when you're in it of thinking a lot of my friends and loved ones will never make it. So, there's that fear of like, this is heartbreaking. Everyone around me is probably going to go to annihilation. What is some of the traumas that you identify that you're working through, and like how has that journey been going for you all since you've been out?
PTSD. It's tough because I was born again Pentecostal, so the idea of hell was, and that's one of the things that a lot of people say. Oh, we were given what is it called? We're prosperity gospel. I always had the hellfire gospel. Like that was like Sunday, every Sunday almost. You're going to hell if you don't follow the Bible. You're going to, all that stuff. So yeah, it took me a long time to get out of that, even as a J-Dub, because it was one of those things that was ingrained in my head. So yeah, it takes time to work that stuff out. And as someone I've studied a lot of people who left, and it takes some people 10, 20 years to not have that fear of hellfire. So yeah, it takes a long time.
And there's things that you do or say or react in a certain way that you don't realize that you're still doing. That's because of the trauma or the doctrine from before. So it takes a really long time, and we're still working on it, and I'll be working on it till the day I die, I'm sure, to undo a lot of those things, especially like the black and white thinking. Witnesses are huge in the black and white thinking, and that has taken me so long to see that I carried that with me for the first several years, many years when I left that black and white thinking, and just yeah, and being able to view people as people, because when you're witnesses, it's us and them. So even when I left, everyone was like an alien. Everyone was still a them, and being able to see people as just another person. They're just like me. I'm just like them. They're not this whole other thing. It's so hard to take off those watchtower colored glasses and to see the world and people the way it really is. So yeah, it's that black and white thinking and thunder.
Yeah, and also
Fear of thunder.
leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses and losing friends,
Yeah.
it changes you because it's like, okay, so now I don't have any friends, because once you're in, because I had many friends before, but when I got in, it was like I had to stop talking to those people. And I gained a whole new ball of friends. And once they realized I left, they all was like, well, too bad, we're not going to be your friend anymore. Because I would go to they would have like volleyball at the park, and there'd be like groups of Jehovah's Witnesses playing basketball. We would play basketball together and stuff like that, watch sports together, all that stuff. And once I left, it was like, nope, we can't hang out with you anymore.
Makes it
And
hard
so,
to make friends.
Yes, it makes it very hard to make friends. It makes it very hard to be social again. It takes a lot of time to get that stuff
Yeah.
back to where you want it to be.
Yeah, you don't trust anyone. You don't trust people. You don't trust people with your heart to not break it and to not just drop you like a bad habit for whatever reason they decide, right? Who knows what the reason is going to be? So yeah, I have a very tiny circle of friends, and I would say I'm not a very good friend because I don't call. I don't try to hang out, but it's just it's just really hard, especially being disfellowshipped, having to be on my own like that for almost 2 years. Just coming from that experience, it was hard to make friends again. It was hard to look people in the eye, because that when you would go into the Kingdom Hall, you can't look at anyone, you sit down. So after that experience, it was so hard for me to look people in the eye and hold eye contact. It was hard. I couldn't do it anymore. It felt like too much.
With your YouTube channel, have you had a lot of pushback from you sharing your story?
Yes.
Yes, from her family.
Yeah.
They did not like it.
Yeah.
I let her explain.
Well, that's just it. They didn't like it. And I was like, well, I didn't say anything that about you guys. It's about the witnesses. I told them I have no gripe with them. If you want to be a witness till the day you die. That is fine. I still love you and I still want to hang out. But they were like, no, all this stuff. And I said, okay, well, if I take it down, if that's the real big problem here, if I take the videos down, then can we hang out as a family? No. Well, then I'm not going to take it down because we're actually helping people.
Right.
Yeah.
The first video has over 30,000 views.
Yeah.
And
It was-
I think one of the big things, like we were saying earlier, was the blood thing. That was just such a weird thing, how they keep piecing this stuff together like that.
Yeah. It's just a big old mess. I haven't talked to my family in so long. My kids, they do see that side of the family twice a year. But my parents divorced shortly after we left. No, right before we left. I don't know.
Around
At the
that.
same time. Yeah, it happened at the same time. And so my dad lives on his own. So I always take them down to see my dad, and then my dad will take them over to see my mom. Because I never wanted to stand in the way of them having a relationship with my mom and that side of the family. My thought is that time will tell, and they will tell on themselves, right? As they get older, they see that they don't treat me right, that they shun me, that, they tell on themselves. And now my son is about to be 17, my daughter's about to be 14, and he has expressed to me the past couple of years that he doesn't necessarily feel comfortable going down there anymore. He said, why would I want to go hang out with someone who wasn't nice to my mother? Like, yeah, that's exactly right. But I don't badmouth them or anything like that in front of them. It's not necessary, and it's not right either, because then you put emotional trauma on children. But time will tell. They'll tell on themselves, and they have, and they'll see for themselves.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm amazed by the bravery that it takes. I know that my journey felt brave in some ways for me, but I know that from what I can tell, the JW journey is exponentially harder for most people, with the implied or directly required shunning. So I just want to commend you all for the bravery it took to do that, and I'm so glad you all were able to keep your marriage together through it all, and stay close through it. That's such a big part of this, and obviously to protect your kids' minds. What a beautiful blessing to give to them for the next generation. So just a lot of heartache, but a lot of good stuff too woven throughout it. And I'm obviously just glad that you escaped and can live your own lives and reclaim your identities. I feel like we did cover quite a bit, but was there any other topics that I didn't ask about that you wanted to get to kind of round out your story, or any other comments to wrap us up?
There's a few little things that really made me question the Bible. One of them is this idea that you can't be a good person without the Bible. That never sat right with me, especially after meeting atheists, because there was a time when I never spoke to one, and eventually I did over the years after leaving. And yeah, it just didn't sit right with me. What? You can't be good without God? That didn't make sense to me. And yeah, that was one of the bigger ones, because again, I know good atheists. I've always known them once I actually got into that world.
It's so funny too when you think about what the Bible's morality actually is. When you're like, it's got genocide and slavery and child brides and stoning and land theft and genital mutilation, and you're like, so now that I'm going to reject that book, I'm the one with no morality? Like, are you
right?
kidding?
It doesn't make sense.
But to them, that's the way they see it. It's crazy.
And the other thing that's funny too is during my time as a Jehovah's Witness, I would send tracts to my father in prison. He has always been
The voice of reason.
I don't know about an atheist per se, but I don't think he would be against it. But he's always been anti-religion, and his mother has always been a devout Christian since basically till death. And yeah, he was one of those people in my life but most kids usually will grow up and realize, wait, they were right. They were right.
Our fathers are very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very similar.
That's awesome. And Noel, did you have any other final thoughts that we didn't get to yet?
Just that, I guess one of the things that because I know we skipped out a lot of stuff because it's a huge story, but we did get into like numerology, spiritism, got a Ouija board once because we really wanted to see, like we tested everything. Right? Like people say Ouija boards will do this. All right, let's do it. So like we wanted to see, like really see everything. So there's like, I don't think there's anything that we didn't try to test to see, is this true or not?
I guess we never slept in a haunted house with candles and a star on the ground.
Yeah. But we did get a ghost in the house. We did. That was a terrible experience. Do not play with Ouija boards. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Did you get any words spelled? Like, did you say, what should we do tonight? And it says pizza spells pizza or something?
No, nothing ever happened. So we were like, oh, this doesn't work. This sucks. Close it, put it back top of the closet. But then things started like flying off the shelves and knocking things across the room and stuff like that. That kind of stuff started happening. Hearing a little child laughing in the middle of the night, like just really spooky stuff. So we threw it away. And when we threw it away, nothing else happened after that.
And
strange.
Where we lived, there was like a cavern, and there was a ton of trees, like a forest. And there was one time I remember at night, there was a little girl laughing. This was
in the woods, laughing in the woods. 2
a.m. Again,
be there.
It's such a weird occurrence, but yeah, we got into a little bit of everything, really. As the Bible says, no stone unturned.
Yeah, we left no stone unturned. We looked into every religion, every school of thought, everything, trying to figure it out. And the conclusion is we're here. We have to live this life.
And nobody knows.
And yeah, nobody knows. Yeah.
But I miss Hitch, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hitch. Hitch was great. I miss him.
Yeah. There's a YouTube channel that's got a clip up from one of his speeches, and it's just called Atheist Anthem. I'll put the link for it beneath our video in case someone wants to watch it. But I go back to that every few months just kind of because it's so inspiring. And yeah, his words are just like they burn into you and make you want to change the world, make you want to make a difference. So let's go free some minds.
You have to make a difference now, not, just let the earth be. That was one of the things too that I didn't like, because the witnesses, they don't give to charities, or if you see a homeless person, you don't do that. They say that's a no. Don't do anything to try to improve the world. They say that's like putting a brand new coat of paint on a sinking ship. That's what they always say. And so when I left, that was the first thing I did, was donated to something, started giving homeless people money or food or whatever that I had, because that is our job. That is what Jesus did. That is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to help each other. We're supposed to make the world better now for ourselves, for our community, for our children. Otherwise, like, what are you doing? When there's a homeless person, the witnesses will give them a tract or like a little pamphlet. What are they going to do with the pamphlet? They can't eat that. They can't clothe themselves with that. That never made sense to me. So that is something that's really important to us as a family.
But they can start a fight with it.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of evangelicals too would be against doing too much in terms of recycling or just taking care of the planet, because they're just like, I guess, take care of it because we're here, but it's all going to burn soon. So why bother? The new heaven and the new earth is coming soon. So don't get too caught up in this whole save the planet stuff. It's like, it's all going to burn. And it's always fascinating to me how they're kind of, basically giving their kids a worse planet when we could all be working harder to keep it nice,
Yeah.
100%.
So, well, I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to encourage everybody again to go please check out their YouTube channel. I'll have the link beneath this video. And Noel, Rick, Ross, thank you so much. It's so great to get to know you, and excited about your YouTube channel, excited to see what you all do with it over the years as you keep on hopefully getting some of these topics and roundtabling them. But you all are just, you're a powerhouse. I love too the way you all work together. I can see you all kind of like finish each other's sentences and think alike, and that's just such a beautiful thing for a couple to have. So thank you so much. Awesome to get to know you today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Have a good one.